After months or maybe even years of practice, do your pirouettes still feel inconsistent, shaky, or unstable? Today's guest is Allie Christensen, a dance movement specialist and the founder of Dancer Strong, a platform dedicated to helping dancers build strength, improve technique, and feel more confident in their bodies both in and out of the studio. In this episode, we're talking about something that so many adult dancers struggle with: pirouettes. Allie breaks down what makes a pirouette successful from the ground up, including why adult dancers often wobble or fall out of turns, and how to build strength in the standing leg, and what cues are most helpful to think about while turning. We also talk through a realistic progression plan for going from messy singles to clean singles, and eventually singles to multiples. And Allie shares some of her favorite exercises to strengthen and stabilize your turns. This conversation is practical, encouraging, and full of tools you can start applying right away. Let's get into it. Hello, Allie. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Hannah. Thanks for having me back. So happy to be here.
Yes, I'm really excited to get in this topic with you specifically because pirouettes are such a common struggle for adult dancers, but also something that I think all adults really want to be able to do well. And so hopefully this can be a really helpful conversation, and I'm so glad to have you on. So I was hoping we could start with talking about why so many adults, no matter how much they practice, just feel like they can't achieve stability. They still feel very shaky in their pirouettes. So, what are the top reasons that you tend to see that adult dancers still are wobbling or falling out of pirouettes no matter how much they practice?
Yeah. I mean, I want everyone to know from the beginning of this conversation that pirouettes are just really hard. And there's a reason that they're hard because there's so many elements to them. So I will list a bunch of things, but we could list even more and it can feel overwhelming. And I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed after we talk about this. There's steps and order to things and ways to progress, and I'm sure we'll get into some of that. But also just give yourself some grace because pirouettes are hard. They're very hard. I think there's always technical things that are challenging about a pirouette, but the number one thing I see with adults is just confidence. And I feel like it comes down to them being challenging. So either one, you are you either seem to be comfortable with turning or not comfortable with turning. Like I could never guess who. I've had dancers who are super confident in cross training motions, pick up weights, throw them around, will try anything. And then I have this spin board in my office that I'll put them on and they freak out. It's like the earth is coming out from underneath them. And I'm like, oh, I would not have guessed that. And then dancers that I would guess would not be very confident or have that skill jump on and they just spin and they're so comfortable. Their technique may not be there, but they're just comfortable turning. So I think that there is that aspect. You're either comfortable or not to start out.
Mhm.
And then there's kind of a bravery thing with turning. The world is spinning, you're on a small point, there's a lot of strength required, but kids, when we start kids young, they're not yet wired to have fear. And I think that that's a big thing too. And one of the pros that little kids have is starting younger where they don't have that fear and they will jump over things, they'll land on their knees, they'll flip in the air, they'll try to do 7 turns even though they might end up on their butt. There is that fearlessness. So I really feel that confidence is a huge thing that holds us back and just comes from repetition and realizing that you're gonna be okay and that if you do fall, you're gonna be okay. Like we've all fallen many times. Every single dancer has. It's not something to be really afraid of or ashamed of at all, never to be ashamed of. It means you were trying. So, but technically, standing leg and ankle strength are really a high requirement for, I mean, we think about it, that's your base. And I think that we need more than you think you do. You need to be stronger and have more muscular endurance to stay on demi point, to do those calf raises, to lock your ankle in, hold your passe. So, all those elements take more than I think we think they do.
Yeah.
There's some core connection that's really vital for turning. They are called your anti-rotation muscles, so they keep us from rotating. And you would think, oh, well, we're spinning, but when you think about wanting to flip your body in space, ideally, we're keeping our shoulders, our hips, and our knees all flipping in one position. I'm not ending up with my shoulders twisted over my butt. They say facing forward. That takes anti-rotation muscles. So those muscles that come across your body kind of like a seatbelt at varied levels tend to be lacking in dancers when they start out, specifically adult dancers. So building up those anti-rotation or working with rotational exercises and anti-rotation exercises really can make a big difference. And then I think just the coordination of everything coming together. And again, it comes down to repetition and practice. Hopefully having a good drill or a few good drills that help you figure out the timing of pirouette or the timing of getting up onto releve. And then we just need some bravery, some practice. Just
Yes.
simple, just bravery.
Well, no, it's so mental though. I think I've talked about this in on other episodes about point because I think it's the same. I think there's a few things within ballet where the mental component really comes into play. I think point work is one of them. I think turning is one of them. I think jumping is probably the other big one where there's just such a mental component that really can be the biggest hurdle, I think, to break through. So yeah, I definitely agree, and I'm glad you said that because I think it helps people even just to give themselves a little bit more grace.
Yeah. There was something that I heard growing up, and I don't remember the number now. It felt so cliche, but now I'm more and more understanding it, where they say that dancing is 90% mental or 80% mental or whatever number you want to throw on it. I don't remember. It's a high number. And it felt so cliche, but now I'm really understanding that first of all, like your brain controls your body. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is mental to control the rest of your body, but also your mindset and understanding how my thoughts so instantly change how my body feels. I can, as soon as I go from like, I feel good to like, oh, is my back hurting? Like, all I notice is my back, but my back was there before, but I wasn't focusing on it. So there's just so much power in our mind and then in the connection and training and the patterning and, the everything. So I haven't said that in so long, but it just came back as you said that dancing's 90% mental, 10% physical, which also makes me think, crap. It's like 10% is really big.
Yeah, totally. It is really big, which I guess that's a perfect segue. What would you say, or can you walk us through what makes a pirouette successful, the physical component, to clarify, from the ground up? I think that would be maybe a helpful way to work through, like starting from the feet. How do we build a successful pirouette in our bodies?
Yeah. Oh, so many things, guys. Remember to have grace as we're going through this from the ground up. If we're looking at your plie, there's position, not just a position, but a way that your body's going to be active. And one little thing you're going to notice if you kind of look at yourself or other dancers is when we let the arches roll in. So you're in your fourth or fifth, but let's say fourth, and you start rolling toward your big toes. It's called pronating. But what's happening is we're kind of losing the back chain of the body. So through the hamstrings, the glutes, even into the back of the body up high. And when we lose that, you're going to lose some of your connection to your turnout muscles. And then think of the long rope that's connecting up into your hips. Your ankles getting sloppy or pronating is like having loose ropes hanging from your hips. So as soon as you press weight into your pinky toe, I say that a lot, it just instantly helps you find a little bit more of the back line of your leg. So your foot contact is not instantly going to make your hips work, but it's going to help a lot.
Mm.
So that position in the foot. When we press up, we have to have a nice push through the foot. I think we hear that a lot, so I won't focus on that a ton. But the position that you then push from the floor requires a lot of glute and hip strength. So hip flexors, all the glute muscles up into the core. And I always use my plie or think of my plie like a spring. So if you're loading a spring, I'm pushing down on the spring, and the heavier the spring, the more I have to push down. That plie is going to be the dictating factor to how you get up. So if you don't think about your down, your up is not going to happen. I think that with pirouettes and jumping, we think a lot about the up. If you don't think about the down, then you can't get the up. If you think about just the up, the down won't come. If you think about the down, the up will come. And that seems like, well, I'm going from 2 feet to 1 foot. That seems hard. And it is. But I guarantee if you load that spring, if you think about your plieing, your shift of weight is going to be easier. Which then goes, we have to be able to go from 2 feet to 1 foot. So I think that you should be able to go from 2 feet to 1 flat foot, like passe or coupe. And then you have to be able to go from 2 feet to 1 foot releve position. And ideally, you are able to do this without the bar and you're able to hold in the center. So we're looking at standing leg strength up the wazoo, up all the way through the torso. It's the biggest thing that you're going to find changing your pirouettes is your full standing leg strength, and standing leg comes all the way up into our shoulder. It's not stopping at the hip. We talked a little bit about our anti-rotation muscles, so training that and how they hold you, but also how they are part of the preparation. So when we're standing in fourth or fifth, I used to teach that you were flipping like a book, a book, or if I was just one side, one side, one side, one side. And then I realized I enjoy turning. That was one of my strengths as a dancer. And I just remember the feeling, and I was like, I'm not like a book. I'm not flipping in space. Like, I'm winding up. It's a controlled wind up. I'm not throwing my body away from my center, but there is this like coiling inside that then pushes and pulls you into a pirouette where you do stay more square. So that anti-rotation, that wind up, that plie, those things all tie together and really make a very successful up into your pirouette. Head spotting, of course, is important. And again, you're either comfortable or not comfortable with this. And those that feel a little less comfortable have very odd spotting patterns. I notice on the little board that I use in my office that sometimes will look and then your chin pulls you off that direction. So I think when we slow things down, that's a common thing is that you are spotting, but you're letting your head take you off into that direction, and then that's, making your center of access really big there. And then I think the last thing I'll touch on is that good turners are making small adjustments. They again aren't like I used to think, okay, I have to be in this perfect position to make it happen. And then all these young kids just proved that they can turn in the weirdest, ugliest, but amazing turn positions. They can turn 7 times with the worst butt out, sickled foot, not over your demi point. Like you name it, they can do it. So it's really not about the position, although in ballet we're asking for that. But in essence, a turn is about making small adjustments quickly. And the faster that you can make those small adjustments, the less you will wobble and the more pirouettes you'll be able to do. So if we were to slow down a professional ballerina doing a turn, you would see their shoulder drop, their knee lift, you'll see like ribs shift and around, but it's happening so quickly and they're catching it so fast that from a turn, you don't really see it. And it looks like they're just perfect.
Yeah, no, I love that you brought that up because I remember the first time, and it honestly may have been from you hearing that you're making micro adjustments. And
Yes.
I think, at least for me, it felt very freeing in a sense of, like you were saying, I don't have to, I mean, the goal obviously is to hit the correct position right away. But I think when you realize that your body is capable and that the more you work on that, your body, it's funny, I even just the other day, I was practicing turns and I felt my body correct in motion. And I was like, holy crap, it's doing it. Like it's doing what it's supposed to.
Yes.
which is so cool. And I think it's also freeing in the sense of after I heard that, I started working on balancing different. I started rather than when I would, just try to balance in a demi-point passe, just trying to be as still as possible and like holding it. I started letting myself feel the micro adjustments that my body would make while I was balancing. And even just the awareness of it changed something for me, even though the goal is still the same of getting into the position. I think having the awareness of what your body is actually doing instead of having this false idea of you're just trying to hit a position and hold it. It's like that's not you're turning. So of course your body has to be adjusting. So
Yeah.
it's such a great concept, I think, to be exposed to, and it changes what you're looking for and what you're looking to feel, I think, in your body.
I think that changing what you're looking to feel is a big thing. Like,
Yeah.
when you recognize that you're not looking to be a marble statue turning, which, I mean, I thought, like, that's the way we describe it so often. When you do recognize, like, there is a feeling in turns, and there's an adjustment, there's a reaction. When you can learn to react quicker to it, your turns will be more successful and also less scary because you can adjust quickly. If you'll think about it, like the slow adjustment is how you end up on the floor or yeah, or how you end up coming off demi point. But if you were on demi point and you felt your heel starting to drop and you could make that micro reaction to get back up, you would not drop your heel. So it's all of that stuff that happens quickly that we have to just get better at, which comes with practice.
Yeah, and that ties in perfectly with the next question that I wanted to talk about was just how can dancers really build that strength in the standing leg? Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but as we're talking about this, I'm thinking probably the two biggest factors in that ability to make micro adjustments is core and standing leg, I would
Mm.
guess. So maybe we could talk about that, about what building that strength, starting with a standing leg, looks like for adult dancers.
I really truly believe it's cross training. I think that that is the way you are going to see faster change and big change in your standing leg and the way your balances happen. It is not to say that if you never cross train, you can't get better at ballet. We actually have generations of dancers who've done that, and we have some really phenomenal dancers in history, but we know better now, and I can say that the amount of adult dancers who start regularly cross training and like come to my virtual classes once a week sometimes, in just a few months, they say they have more change in their standing, like in their balance, than they've had in their years of taking ballet class. And it's because of what a good cross training should is going to do or should do for you. So having the right tool for the right problem. I'm not a mechanic, but I understand that, if you need a certain tool to fix your car and I hand you a hammer, that's probably not going to go very well. So having the right tool really makes the job a lot easier. Cross training is that tool for building standing leg and core strength in movement, which we just discovered. Your pirouette is very much a movement. So how do we build that? I think you have to pick up a cross training habit.
Yeah, it's like, what's that saying? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And
Yeah.
I feel that way a lot. And like for even for my own personal experience, I think I spent, the first couple years that I came back to ballet as an adult, just thinking the answer was just to take more and more ballet classes to get better, and then realizing that there were certain things that I could not push through into the next level, and when I started doing strength training and cross training, that's when I really started to see some things change. This episode is sponsored by Jewel Dancewear. Okay, real talk. Not all dancewear is created equal, but Jewel Dancewear, they get it. Their meshy tights are durable, come in unique colors like purple and blue, and the back seam makes your legs look amazing. Seriously, my legs have never felt more snatched. And their leotards, they're like the little black dress of the ballet world. Flattering and chic, the one you reach for over and over because you know you look good in it. But what I love most is that Jewel's sizing is truly adult ballet body friendly. Their pieces embrace and support your curves, so you feel as good as you look. And because you're part of this community, Jewel is giving you 15% off your order with the code JewelBunhead15. That's JewelBunhead15 at jeweldancewear.com. Because every dancer deserves to feel confident in class.
Are there any cues in particular, like because you do work with so many dancers, are there cues that you find consistently are helpful for adults when they are working on their turns? Cueing for you is like one of those things I feel like you are so gifted at. It's one of my favorite things about taking classes with you. Like, you give the best cues. And so I would love to hear what your top turn cues are.
Oh gosh, no pressure.
So again, I 100% have experienced for my body and then see it with other people that you hear things over and over, and then you go to somewhere else or a different time in your life where your body experiences something different and then something makes sense. So keep exploring, keep trying, and you will find things that click for you. A couple of the ones that I see a lot of success with are push the floor down. I mean, I say it a lot, push the floor down. But if you think about why the cue works, because that's always my thing, is I can't just give a cue like green unless I explain that when I say green, it means we're connecting to the earth and you have to give context to the cue. So if you cannot tell yourself why the teacher is saying a certain cue, the cue's not going to work for you. It might be a great cue, but you have to know why. So you either need to ask your teacher or you need to get a different cue because it's not going to work for you. So pushing the floor is going to give you something to push off of. As much as we talk about going up and pulling up, there is nothing to pull up against. You are not, if you had ropes from the ceiling to pull on, pull up would make a lot of sense, but we don't. So you have the floor. And if you think about moving the physical floor down, you can feel in your body like how you get taller and you have to engage everything to be able to physically move the floor down. So in your plie to releve, don't hover on the floor, push the floor down. That also would probably couple with corrections like be it screw or a barbershop pole or dig into the floor, like I'm thinking of all those spiraling down motions. Or if your teacher says spiral up, we're saying the same thing, we're just getting at it a different way. There's a few things I have found that help distract, or I'm sure there is some fancy mental thing that is happening that I'm not aware of. But if we're talking about kind of that fear factor or the confidence, saying in your head the timing pattern that you want. I know that we're all working on our single pirouette, but I'm going to use a double because I think it makes sense. From your plie, if you go plie and flip, flip, and you up, up with your voice in your head, and you quick, quick. So you want to be turning fast. Make your brain think of that pattern. Up, up, flip, flip, whatever it is. Humming, as silly as it sounds, can help calm your nervous system, from what I understand. The idea of the pull up again, think hips up, not belly up, not pull up, hips up. Think of pulling your pelvis off of your thigh bone. Or we tie it together, hips up, so pelvis up and push the floor. So you're now creating the length in your hip that your teachers are asking for because the pelvis is being pulled up by the core, and then you're pushing the floor down, pulling your thigh bone away from the pelvis in your head. So that's that hip separation. So instead of just going up, you have the two oppositions. And then I kind of mentioned it earlier with the load the spring, but your plie will dictate your up. So if I had a life-size spring that I had to push down on, I can physically imagine how much effort that would take to push that down. And then once you get it down, if you don't want it to pop back up, you have to like set yourself, right? And you're like, okay, stay down, stay down, stay down. 1, 2, 3, go. So there is that timing and that load the spring to have it push you off sensation. And that's a slow time to a quick up. So your plie is very important is what I'm getting at.
I love that you talked about pushing down because this actually came up very recently for me. I had kind of forgotten about that because I had been taking class where a lot of the cueing was up, 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 up. And so I was really focusing on up. And then I took class with a different teacher who talked about pushing down. And it was like an instant difference for me as soon as I thought of pushing down. And I know it's hard when you're teaching because some of the class probably needs to hear up and some of the class probably needs to hear down,
Yes.
depending on what you're struggling with. But for me, I needed to hear down and it instantly helped because I'm someone who tends to hop in my pirouettes. And I think for me, I think it was coming from it being too up and thinking too up and not having enough pressure in my feet on the ground. So yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm sure I'm not the only one who needed to be reminded of that because I think it's really easy. You're just ballet is so up that it's like you're always thinking up. But
Yeah.
there is
It's
that
so
opposite.
counterintuitive, like to be graceful and floaty and elegant. You don't think of grounding. Like that's not your
Yeah.
first thought, but to be graceful and elegant, you have to have something to work with because we are all not gods floating around on the clouds, right? Like we have gravity, we have the earth, so let's use what we have and then let that float and that energy come out through the rest of you.
Yeah, and I think there's really something to be said for the way that we interpret and internalize the overall aesthetic of ballet into how we think we need to execute. Like, I think because, again, ballet is so, like, lifted and light and ethereal looking, we just go there automatically with our body positioning. We think of being up more because the reason I'm thinking of this is because like, I previously was salsa dancing was, like, my main style, and I it was actually very frustrating because as a salsa dancer, I consider myself a turner. Like, I love to turn, I love to do a lot of turns, and I had never had problems with hopping around, but salsa is a very grounded style aesthetically, and so I think that even just in the style of dance, the whole body carriage for me and like my personal proclivities to doing things a certain way, like the groundedness made me a better turner, whereas the upness of ballet makes me not a ballet turner. And it's so funny. I feel like I'm two different dancers in both styles.
Yeah.
I'm not a turner in ballet, and I'm 100% a turner in salsa.
Yeah. No, I used to feel that just from like contemporary to ballet, where contemporary was just so much easier to turn. And I always thought it was because it was in parallel and, like less going on. I say that with air quotes. But I actually don't think that was true now. I think it was my mindset in the cues that I was naturally going towards that liftedness, but in contemporary was okay to be down in the floor. And in ballet, it was not in my brain, but I should have used all of that good contemporariness. So you should use your salsa-ness. It will help you as a ballet dancer.
I know, but it's funny because it goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning about like the mental side. And I think so much of dance is how you are conceptualizing how something is supposed to look. And then
Yeah.
you translate that into what your body it needs to do to execute. And it may help and it may not. Just never know. Have you been craving more time in the studio and more connection with other adult dancers? If so, I have great news for you. This episode is sponsored by Label Active, a dance and activewear brand inspired by the artistry, discipline, and presence of dancers, and the host of the 2026 Adult Ballet Retreat. 5 full days of ballet classes and social activities designed specifically for adult dancers, taking place in Seattle, Washington, June 21st through the 26th. I've personally attended retreats hosted by this team multiple times, and it's always an unforgettable experience. There's nothing like spending a week surrounded by other adult dancers, immersed in your shared love of ballet, in a space that's supportive and encouraging. And this whole week is thoughtfully built around adults. the pacing, the coaching, the environment. And there's 3 levels to choose from. So whether you're a beginner or have been dancing for years, this event is for you. I'm so excited to be attending again this year, and I would genuinely love to dance with you in person. Registration closes on April 15th, so if you're interested, don't wait. And because you're part of the after-class community, you can use code AFTERCLASS100 and get $100 off your registration. All the details and links to register are in the show notes. If you've been dreaming of a ballet experience that fills your cup, I cannot recommend this retreat enough. Hope to see you there.
So I would love to talk about, because I know this is a goal for myself and for many, many of us adult dancers, the progression, making that leap from single pirouettes to doubles, triples, etc. Do you have any tips or even like a progression method that you recommend, technique, strength for making that jump from singles to doubles and beyond?
Yeah. I do a few things do spring to mind, and one of them I already decided I'm gonna put it on a video. I'm gonna put it on YouTube, and I'll give you the link so you guys can drop down and check this out. Essentially, it's taking you through quarter, half, three-quarter, full, which is something that I think some dance teachers do. But I like the way I have learned it and give it to dancers because it allows you to feel safe at the end. And I feel like one hand on the bar always feels unsafe when you're trying to get into that full from 1 to 2. So this is going to allow you to see where you fall, what are your habits, and then also literally have the bar to grab on to. So go check that out because I really like that. And I see a lot of dancers have better information about their body, and that's what it is. You need to know what you're doing so you can change it. If you're in a balance or a pirouette, and I always say, if you're falling the same way every time, I want you to try to fall the other way, like disastrously fall the other direction because you are doing the same thing over and over. So if you fall to the right, push yourself off to the left. If you're sinking backwards, shove yourself forward in space, to be dramatic and then fine tune it and bring it back into the middle. I think that balancing without the bar is kind of one of those, duh, but I really mean it. Really, really mean it. You have to be able to stand on one foot and press up to a releve and be on balance. Nothing big or wobbly. You also have to be able to go from plie to a releve in the center. And that's like that painstaking work that it takes. I know that we kind of want to go from the bar and then be like, okay, well, I can balance on one leg, touching the bar a little bit, but you really do have to be able to press up and down several times, I think, without the bar for a clean single and then the progression into a double pirouette. Ankle strength is huge. I'm going to come back to the like more than you think. I always, always, always see dancers that say, oh, I feel okay in a calf raise or a releve. And then when we slow it down and we try to get to 20, 2 counts up, 2 counts down, no bend in the knee, the pulling up in the hips, that kind of stuff, you start shaking it. 9, 10. It's like, oh, I could do 20 before. I'm like, yeah, you absolutely could. But this is that next level of detail. So it's that type of strength that you have to have. You can't just rush through something. It has to be the muscular endurance of slow and held and building that from there. Side plank strength is a big indicator of balance ability in a pirouette. So you should be able to do a normal side plank, meaning straight legs out to the side on your elbow or your hand for probably 30 seconds. No problem. No problem. I'll use the air quotes again. Like you can hold your body well. I think as adult dancers, we either have powered our movement because we've played a sport, or if you didn't play a sport, or for whatever no reason, power something that's not in your body yet. And power is that, like, it's the ability to exert maximum force at one time or at a short time. So we think of power a lot with jumping, like you'll think of like having good power in your jump. That is the kind of the correct place to put that analogy. But having power is then if you have
this much potential, or we use the dimmer switch analogy. If you turn the dimmer all the way up to bright, that's your full power. You got to be able to dim it correctly. And your pirouettes are the same thing. So I see a lot of adults that can't get past dim on their dimmer switch. They don't have the power in their plie. They don't have the solidness in their body because they had a trained power. So it's not that pirouettes take a ton of power as a jump does, but I think that training power comes into the confidence, the placement, the ability to hold yourself in space, and then you do use whatever little amount of power it takes to do a pirouette well off that dimmer switch.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to turn the dimmer switch all the way up so you know what dim is. Otherwise, you're just dim, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, it's so true. It's like you got to do all the unsexy work to be able to do the sexy stuff.
Right? To make it look sexy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, is there any move in ballet that could really be described as sexy? Probably not, but in ballet context.
Yeah.
The one that always makes me laugh is like, oh my God, her feet. And I'm like, we all understand how weird this sounds, right? But yeah, it's like you just can't skip that stuff. And I think it's hard. I think especially for adults because we always have this feeling that we're short on time and that we're behind. And I think actually I think Catherine said it in one of her videos that she did of like it takes longer to rush. And that just like something that has stayed with me because I think it's so true. You know, we all have this temptation of we just want to like get to the good stuff. But then in the end, you end up getting stuck in these loops of not being able to progress past a certain point, and you end up having to walk it back
Yeah.
and spend time doing those things anyway. So if you're listening and you're at the beginning of your journey, just do it now. Like I so wish that I had been better about working on the fundamentals when I first started instead of trying to rush past them.
I think we've all had those moments. You know, we rush, we want to get to the big stuff, the hard stuff. But if it feels too hard, you're not going to do it well. And then you're going to get thrown back for some reason. And hopefully it's not because you hurt yourself, but it probably will be because you hurt yourself. It's a very physical thing we're doing. So we can make kind of that assumption, and we see that statistically. So besides just being cool, remember, if you want to dance for a long time, pace yourself and enjoy the process, because dance never stops and you never hit a point where you're like, I'm here, I'm done, I've arrived. You are always working. That's why professional dancers are so wonderfully weird, because we watch them and we're like, that was the most beautiful développé I've ever seen. And they're like, oh no, like my big toe, and my finger was weird. And you're like, I didn't see any of that. Yeah, that's because dance never stops. You never arrive. So, as a beginner, realizing that is very helpful. You will always be in the spot where you're like, there could be more, because there always could be.
Yeah, I think the longer you're doing ballet too, like I really have come to appreciate cleanliness, cleanness over more. I think for a season I was just so fixated on wanting to get double pirouettes, and it was at the expense of focusing on getting a really clean single. And I think that I don't know if this is just something that's like the more you train and the more you're in the detail work of it, you will start to appreciate how beautiful it is to have really clean, quote unquote basics. Not that a pirouette is basic, but a single,
Yep.
that's really clean and solid versus doubles, triples, whatever that are messy is always the better option. Aesthetically, technique wise, all the things. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is hard to slow down, especially as adults. It's hard to slow down sometimes. But so I know this is kind of a hard question because we are primarily audio, but are there exercises that are your favorites for improving pirouettes? Like if someone wants to be incorporating one or two things into whatever their current routine is, are there go-tos that you're like, this is great for pirouette strength specifically?
Yeah. Okay, if I had to choose two, and then I'll give you a couple more. The first one would be for those anti-rotation muscles that I talked about earlier. The exercise variations are called a Palloff, a Pallof, if you're going to look it up. There's tons of variations. You do it with a band. You can do it with a cable weight. You can do it with the band attached to your door. But basically, the band is trying to pull you one direction and you're resisting the movement.
Okay.
So it's working on not rotating. And it needs to be done in a certain way. It's not just throw it out there, but those variations will change your core work and they will change your pirouette. So that's my number one. And then second would be standing leg stuff. And there's a wide variety of things to do. But things that challenge you to go from hip hinge, so like a big forward motion, to standing up all the way tall, straight leg, pulled up quad and knee, all the good stuff that you would feel. Being able to go from down to an up using glute, not hurting your back, getting all the alignment. Those would be the two things I would highly suggest. But calf raises at that super slow 2 counts up, 2 counts down. Don't let yourself cheat. And it's annoying when you get to 8 and you're like, it's only 8. But better to have it now and be slow, as we just said. So build that way. I already said that side planks and carry variation, so holding a weight on one side, that works your side plank muscles as well. So that's that full standing leg, side body strength that we need. This is not really a strength exercise, but if you're somebody who has issues with balance, practicing standing with your eyes closed will really improve your proprioception.
So humbling.
I like to stand next to something. Yes, so you don't feel like you're going to go flying. And depending on your comfort level, you can literally have your hand ready to grab the counter, like, yes, or you have someone stand behind you or whatever it is. Like, please feel comfortable. But it is uncomfortable to do. And then I'll just stand when I feel a little better. I cross my hands over my shoulders, stand in parallel coupe on a flat foot. And you just close your eyes and you're like, whoa. If you were doing a point evaluation with me using the little standardized tests that they use, you'd need to be able to close your eyes for 20 seconds and not fall over.
Gosh, I'm like, I don't know if I would pass with you. I probably wouldn't be able to get a point.
Yeah. All you need to do is practice. All you need to do. Practice. But you can kind of have that. Like if you're at 2 seconds, there's some work that could be done. If you're getting close to 20 seconds and you realize you can stay in the center, you probably don't need to practice that one as much. So that's just that little guideline. But that's a really nice way to start easily working on some of your proprioception of space. Again, I'll pull back to check out the YouTube link below. I'll put some things you guys can practice there. I have my Dancer Strong platform, which is for adult dancers, and it's to train smart, it's to train correctly, it's to use cross training to make you a better dancer. Do not come to me if you want to have a 6-pack. You might get a 6-pack, but don't come to me and ask for a 6-pack. That's not the trainer that I am. My goal is your dance goals. And we want to do the exercises that make those changes. And that's what this whole platform is put together for. I want my fitness to match my goals for how my body is moving and feeling and dancing and doing all my other endeavors that I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I am so convinced because I love our live Zoom classes every week, and we've been working a lot on standing leg stuff, and I am 100% convinced that that's why I had that experience the other day of feeling my body correct in the middle of a pirouette was because of all the standing, hip hinging forward on one leg, moving, because it felt the same. The way I feel when we're doing that movement is what I felt in my body when I was turning. And so it is really cool when you start to see the connections of what's happening. And I think too, a lot of times in a ballet class, everything is happening so fast and there's music and there's choreography and it's like you're trying to find the way certain things feel, what am I supposed to be engaging? And I think one of the things I really love about the platform and the live classes that I do with you is you're getting to feel the same things that you would want to be feeling in a ballet class, but you're having the time to actually consciously feel them in your body because it's really hard to be present in your body in that way in a ballet class when you have people around you, you have music, you have counts you're trying to stay on. And I think there's just a certain level of body awareness that I don't want to say you like is impossible to find in a ballet class, but to me at least, it felt kind of impossible to find in a ballet class. And it wasn't until I started doing the strength and cross training work with you outside of the studio that I'm like, oh, I'm finding things because it's not in this rushed pace of choreography. There's some repetition, it's a little slower. The
Yeah.
goal is to find it in your body, not to make it look pretty, which I think that's another hard thing with ballet is we're so focused on the aesthetic of trying to make things look a certain way that sometimes that can impede our ability to feel. So I think that there's just like so many good things that come out of working with you and using your platform because you're just able to find things in a totally different way than you can in a ballet class setting. So highly, highly, highly recommend. And yeah, it'd be so fun to have more friends in our live Zoom classes because
That's right.
you're a member, right? You get to take the live. So yeah, actually share about the live Zoom classes because
Yeah.
I'm sure people love to hear.
Yes, it is true that the people who come to the live classes like have just seen. I've seen it. We talk about it. If you are in the unlimited membership, which is I guess like step 2, it means that you get all of the workouts plus all of the pre-made programs plus access to all the live classes. So 3 times a week we come together and we do strength or mobility and there's, kind of set days for it. But we work hard in 30 minutes and that's all we got is 30 minutes. And everybody comes from different spots. Like everybody's body is different. Everybody's history is different. But with it being live Zoom, we get corrections. Whenever there's, somebody new or working out an issue, we're able to address those, but still be in the group setting, which is really nice. It has been extremely fun to see the people who come regularly watch them improve so fast in just coming once a week, which is what most of you guys do is show up to one class. And it's been pretty powerful. And then getting to hear from you guys is also super, super lovely. Like highlight for me to hear that your guys' work is really paying off, that you feel that, and I'm not just seeing it. That's so lovely.
It's so awesome though because like nothing feels better than feeling strong. Like I'm convinced. I
Right?
saw a thing about I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it was like what feels better, skinny or strong? And I'm like,
Yep.
strong. Strong feels so much better than skinny. I just love it. You just really start to feel better in your body. And it's like, it's a hard thing to describe, but I think anyone who's experienced it will know what that feels like, where you're just like, you start to feel different, like a little more like solid in a good way.
Yeah. I think one of the words I use is capable. Like
Yeah.
you don't realize, not that you weren't capable before, but when things start to feel easier, you don't realize how hard they were before.
Yeah. At the beginning of the year, I was sick for a little bit and there was just like I was busy and so I wasn't doing as much point work as I wanted to, but I was really trying to stay consistent with strength training. And it was so funny because I took a class and I put my point shoes on for bar and I hadn't worn my point shoes in probably at least maybe 2-3 weeks. And my teacher said something to me about like, you look really strong and like good in your shoes. And I was like, that's not from point practice because I haven't been doing point practice. That's from strength training. So it's funny how, kind of like what I was saying earlier, doing more of the same thing is not always what gets you results in that thing. Like doing more point work was not what made my point work look stronger. It was doing strength training that made my point work look stronger.
I think that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, it is. It's really
You don't
cool.
have to kill yourself doing one avenue to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
There's so many winding ways to get there that will have made you stronger for it.
Yeah,
The mental and physical sense, so
totally.
I think it's exciting.
So how can people find you?
dancerstrongprograms.com. You can book sessions there. You can check out, there's a free trial. Please go try that. If you use Hannah's code, I was going to say password code, which is after class.
Yep.
After class. You're going to get a discount if you purchase the monthly subscription, and it's come as you are, month to month, so you can use it whenever you want. I'm on Instagram and YouTube at Align Fitness by Allie, and right now there is a lot of content being pumped out on YouTube, and they're full videos. That's my focus for the year, is giving more context to things instead of 30-second clips on Instagram. So go check all that out, because there's a lot of stuff there, and I think that's always a great place to start.
Yeah, and I will include links to all of Allie's platforms in the show notes, as well as the video that she's going to be making specifically about pirouettes. So make sure you check that out. And thank you, Allie, so much for being here. It is always such a pleasure to have you.
I am so happy. Anytime.
I'm like, don't say it, because you know I'll take you up on it.
I'll be back.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It really helps more adult dancers find the podcast. All the links and resources we mentioned today are waiting for you in the show notes. And if you want more adult ballet content in between episodes, come hang out with me on Instagram at @thebusybunhead. See you next week after class.